Hey everybody, it's Glenn with a pet food puzzle guy, and I am back. I have a new puzzle that I've started, and it's really a killer. It's really taking me a long time to get into this one. But remember, the whole idea of this channel is to take all the pet food marketing out there, all those pieces, and put them together in a way that you get a clear picture of what is best nutritionally for your pet, because the marketing is overwhelming. I love doing this. I hope the information is helpful for those of you watching. So that's the whole point of this. So this time I've had a number of people comment that they would really like to see some comparisons with senior foods. So I thought, let's go ahead and do that. I went through and I picked 5 different senior diets, kind of across the spectrum from the lower end price to the higher end price. And it's the same format as I've done with Ollie and Farmer's Dog, and with a few of the all-natural foods. So we're going to do the same format. And when it comes to senior, I want you all to think about a senior food. You have a senior dog. Oh, so you're going to feed a senior food. Well, the real question is, what makes a food a senior food? It says senior on the bag. What's going on in your mind? You have, let's say, 11, 12-year-old lab or whatever, border collie, and you know they're senior, they're geriatric, whatever word you want to use. So they should be on a senior food. But what does that really mean? Are there special senior ingredients I should be feeding my senior dog? To be honest, if you looked at the ingredient panel of a puppy food and the ingredient panel of a senior diet, you're not really going to see different ingredients. You're going to see chicken, you're going to see fiber sources, you're going to see animal fat, you're going to see corn if you're not going for a no corn diet. The ingredients aren't going to be that unique for the senior dog versus the puppy. It's just not, that's not how it's done. So what's the benefit? I mean, in your mind right now, I like you to think, what is the benefit of a senior food versus a regular adult diet, or just feeding an all life stage food that's basically puppy food? Why should I focus on a senior diet for my senior dog? And that's really, to answer that question, we're going to go back to what we've done with each of the other comparison videos. We're going to look at the definition of healthiest. Which is the healthiest senior diet for my old dog? So I'll show that definition again. Indicative of, conducive to, or promoting good health, such as a healthy, balanced diet. We're using it in the context here of a senior dog. Okay, so what is the healthiest? What promotes good health for the senior dog? And again, we've already established, well, it's not unique ingredients. We find pretty much the same ingredients. What is it? It's, you guessed it, it's the nutrient levels designed for that geriatric dog versus that younger adult dog, and definitely different than that growing puppy. So I want you to think about it. I wish I had some of the slides from when I used to train veterinarians and their teams on this stuff, but there was a slide that I remember, and basically it showed the age of a typical dog through, maybe 15 years of age. And basically, when you look at the prevalence of disease, there's lots of different diseases out there, but the age-related ones, really, it was around the age 7, if you were watching this graph, that certain risks dropped down and certain risks took off. So that's why when you hear people say, well, at the age of 7, your dog is geriatric, yeah, that whole 7 years of people's lives for 1 year in the dog, all that kind of stuff. But it mainly comes down to around 7 years of age, the risk of certain age-related diseases really takes off in a dog. This is true in a cat as well. And some of those young life stage diseases or risks drop off, and these others take off. So the whole idea when I look at what's conducive to good health for my senior dog is, how do I address the increased risk of disease now? That could include, a big one would be kidney disease, definitely for sure. Heart disease, arthritis, urinary stones, things like that. We know they're real. We know the veterinarians see them every day. The older the dog gets, the more prevalent those diseases are, just like with people. So getting back to our definition, which of these 5 diets that I chose and looked at which one of those actually promotes good health and reduces the risk of disease for my geriatric dog or my senior dog. So the first one is Blue Buffalo. I know I'm kind of a favorite of Blue Buffalo just because I have to say they're great at giving me nutrient levels. I'll give them credit for that. I really appreciate a company that I could call and get actual nutrient levels, and Blue Buffalo is one of them. I have the hardest time trying to find a picture of their product that doesn't have the more meat percentage thing stamped on the bag, but this is their Blue Wilderness Senior, so we're going to take a look at that. And if you have watched any of my other videos, you might be thinking right away, well, Glenn's going to say there's no such thing as a senior wolf, which is true. They don't get to live those geriatric years that your dog and my dog does. They're gone long before probably the age of 7, actually, like I'm talking about these health risks that increase. Probably by 7, most of those wolves are gone, from predators to humans, unfortunately, to disease, to trauma, all kinds of stuff. But anyway, I want to keep going, beating a dead horse on that one. So Blue Wilderness Senior is one of them. The next one is Orijen Senior. And Orijen, same way, man. I can call them up and they've got the numbers, and if they're busy, I leave my number and they call me back. So again, kudos to them. So we're going to look at their senior food. If you recall, it was Orijen when we did, what was it, Taste of the Wild, Orijen, and Blue Buffalo. Their adult diets, I believe it was Orijen that won as far as the healthiest nutrient levels of those 3 diets for an adult dog. So we'll see how they do with senior. Then I thought, okay, let's switch a little bit. This is Kirkland. This is the Costco brand. I used to hear a lot of good things about this when I was working in the clinics. Vets would ask me about it, and I never actually looked it up, so it was kind of fun to look this one up. But this is their mature dog, and we'll take a look at that one and see how that one does. And I guess at the end I should do a cost comparison. It'll be interesting to see how the cost of these different diets versus their healthfulness. Is that the right word? And then I thought, let's really go grocery with Purina 1. Now, you know, Purina's got a million diets out there, but let's go with Purina 1. That's kind of their premium grocery brand, not Pro Plan. That's their, highest quality brand, at least in their marketing. Here's Purina 1, and this one is Vibrant Maturity. So we'll see how that one does. And the last one is Science Diet Adult 7+. So this is, again, that magic 7-year point. And again, there's no gospel number that 7 years old is when all this stuff shifts. But in general, that's around the time that you really need to be thinking of your pet as getting older. Okay, if you have a giant breed, sadly, because those are some of the sweetest dogs in the world, it could be age 5 that we're looking at some of those changes. So, and I'll just throw it in there because I know any vet watching this would cheer right now. But when they hit 5 to 7 years of age, that's the time, at least at that point, for some blood work to really get to see what's going on with those internal organs, get a baseline, and that will really help determine your pet's health as they grow. Veterinarians are not magicians. A lot of diseases are very insidious, especially kidney disease. They don't show themselves till it's almost too late. So that the blood work is just a great way of keeping your pet around longer. When your dog's geriatric, and I wish I had the graph to show you the increase of health risks, but when you recognize those health risks and that you can help, you can't stop them, you can't prevent disease, but if you can reduce the risk of those diseases by controlling nutrients, that's so important. So I really get on people when they have older dogs. That's when it really matters to feed the right food. So again, looking at these senior foods, this is important. So let's go ahead, and I am going to throw up the slide of all the nutrient levels. I need my glasses for this one. So we have going across, we have Blue, we have Orijen, we have Kirkland, we have Purina 1, and we have Science Diet. So sorry these graphics aren't much better. They're at least they're better than me drawing it on the board. So take a look at it. There's a lot of numbers there. I'll kind of walk you through it. And I hope as I do these videos, you kind of get a different appreciation for how to look at diets, not the way the marketers have tried to train you to look at ingredient panels and marketing on the bag. It's the nutrients that matter. It matters to your puppy, it matters to your adult dog, but it definitely matters to your geriatric dog, because we know the health risks associated with that aging. Okay, so if we look at, let's just look at protein across the board real quick, and we'll see there's Blue at 8.8 grams. Orijen, man, Orijen, they love the meat protein. Remember that from the video we did on them. 10.4, really high in protein. Kirkland at 7.9, Purina 1 at 7.6, and Science Diet at 5.3. So right away, let's look at the extremes. You got Science Diet at 5 grams of protein and Orijen at over 10. Now, I will tell you, the government, I've said this in other videos, the government makes sure there's no deficiencies in pet food. Now, I know you're probably saying, oh, I don't believe that. Nah, that's pretty easy to do. They can tell how much protein does a normal adult dog need, and a cat, and all that kind of stuff. And at 5.3 grams of protein, this is for a senior dog, okay? So the kidneys are getting tired now, but there's still, Lord willing, there's some good years of those kidneys left. The whole idea is to reduce the workload on those kidneys, not with a kidney diet, but just a diet that's controlling protein. 5.3 is not deficient. Okay, if it was, Hill's Science Diet would be sued and shut down, and I can say there's generations of dogs on seniors, especially among veterinarians. They love Hill's for their senior diets because of all the science that goes into that geriatric stage. Dogs do fine at 5.3 grams of protein. Now, what I did, just to be fair here to Hill's, because all these other diets have really great marketing, this is the Science Diet Senior with no corn, wheat, or soy. So before any of you think, well, yeah, but I want to see the ingredient panel, they've manipulated that ingredient panel that you'll be happy. There's no corn, there's no wheat, there's no soy. Okay, so I should make that point. So here's Science Diet giving us 5 grams and Orijen giving us 10. Now, you know my position on this, and I'm not representing my own opinion. This is the opinion of board certified veterinarians, nutritionists that I have worked with over the years. There is absolutely no reason to give a dog, especially a senior dog, 10.4 grams of protein. There's just no reason. You're making those kidneys and liver and such do extra work for no reason. And if that dog is never going to have kidney disease, I guess it's not really a problem. But if they're, that 1 or 2 out of 5 that are going to over time, boy, it's a shame that we kept pumping in 10 grams of protein. Okay, at least that's the approach from these nutritionists. Blue and Kirkland are about the same at 7 or 8, and so is Purina 1. So again, I don't like Orijen being so high, but here's the real story. Remember, we talked about the quality of ingredients. You guys hear that all the time from these pet food companies, our quality, our quality. Remember what I said, ingredient panels can lie, but the nutrient numbers tell the truth, okay? So when we look at the calcium and phosphorus, that's telling us the mineral content that's in that diet. Most of those minerals are going to come from the meat sources, okay? Remember, I told you the purest meat sources that are cleanest and just have meat protein in them, whether it's dry or fresh, whatever, if it's low in minerals, that food company spent good money on good meat sources, and those minerals are the things we're trying to control, especially in that geriatric stage. So let's take a look. We've got Blue at calcium of 400, phosphorus at 280, okay? Just for comparison, look at Orijen, much higher in protein, but what do we find? Same thing we found last time we looked at with their adult diet, their mineral content is actually lower. So what that tells me, without looking deeper into it, is that their protein sources are just purer and cleaner. And again, I don't care whether it's a meal, I don't care if it's fresh meat, if it's fish, whatever. Looking at that, just that right there, calcium and phosphorus, with such a high protein level. Now again, I disagree with the high protein level, but I got to give them credit. They're spending their money on good protein sources to keep that mineral content even lower than the Blue Buffalo Senior. Okay, so again, Orijen starts out kind of winning this contest here. If we go to Kirkland, now here's your more economical diet. I love the 7.9 grams of protein. I think that's totally appropriate, at least better than the other two. But look what I find. Now here's where economy brands, sometimes the problem is not in the ingredient panel looking bad with corn gluten meal or something like that, but look at the mineral content. It actually is a lot higher, calcium and phosphorus at 480 and 280. So again, what does this tell me? You're lower in protein, but that protein actually is delivering a higher mineral content. So again, without looking at the ingredient panel, without any of that, that's just a clear indication that, okay, I'm going to bet this is kind of a less expensive food, definitely than the other two. So you're kind of getting what you pay for. If you want pure meat sources, you can't be buying, a Costco brand. Okay. Let's go on to Purina One. Again, this is a grocery brand. It was Purina's introduction of taking the premium back to the grocery store, where I'm sure Purina really wants you. And what do we find? Well, the mineral content, kind of interesting, 351 over 238. So again, lower than Kirkland, little lower than Orijen at the 10 grams of protein. Not bad for an economical food. It's low in protein. I like the mineral content. If you look at across the board there, it actually is the lowest, and it's a grocery brand. Now here you go. Grocery food's terrible. I would never feed grocery food. Oh my goodness, I wouldn't even walk into a PetSmart to buy food. I'm definitely not buying food from a grocery store. I'm going to buy that really expensive, fancy stuff at the boutique store. And what do we find? For my senior dog, I'm actually giving healthiest. Maybe not the most attractive, the most glamorous, but if we go with the definition of healthiest, whoa, look at that, Purina One? Are you kidding me? So there it is, okay? Unless they're lying about their numbers, got to give it to them. Here's Science Diet. Now again, here we have only 5.3 grams of protein. Some of you are, I'm sure, going to say, oh, that's just too low, that's impossible, blah, blah, blah. Generations, do you hear me? Please hear me. Generations of dogs, senior dogs, have been fed 5 grams, and if we get into kidney diets, even lower than 5 grams per 100 kcals, and they thrive. They do fine. This obsession with protein, and especially now meat protein, it's comical in a way, but it makes me want to just scream because it harms animals. The philosophy just is not science. Your meat is not magic. It is not going to make your dog live longer. As a matter of fact, meat and the amino acids we get from meat protein that were great for when they were growing puppies and when they were adults and all, now actually that becomes a liability as their kidney function starts to falter and be compromised. Now meat protein becomes a liability. Now we're overtaxing the kidneys and the liver. Now we're producing more nitrogen waste. Now we're delivering more phosphorus that's tearing up those kidneys even more, okay? So again, this whole meat thing just drives me nuts, and I just went off on a tangent there. So let's bring it back to Science Diet. What do we find with 5.3 grams of protein? It's pretty interesting. We find calcium of 227 and a phosphorus of 177. Look across there, guys. You see anybody close to that? Actually, Purina One would be the closest, okay? Now, that's a grocery food. Science Diet's made by the top veterinary nutritionists in the country, if not in the world. They've been doing this longer than probably you've been alive. Well, they started in 1948, so probably most of us watching this weren't born yet when that first kidney diet came out, okay? So they've been working on this a long time, all right? And most of the great nutritionists you find at Angel Memorial or at all these different universities, they all went and worked for Hills for a little while to gain the experience, because of take advantage of the research facility there, whatever. So when I look at that 5.3, or you do, I'm sure you're thinking, oh my goodness, that's too low. It's just not enough protein. Baloney, okay? It's plenty of protein. It's just the marketing people have fooled us into thinking that you would need all this meat protein. And you know why? It's really simple. Because they can find lousy sources of meat, which again, the mineral content will reveal that. Put it in the food, make the ingredient panel look great, and cheap meat can look really good on an ingredient panel and deliver lousy nutrients, and you're going to pay top dollar for it, not even knowing. So there's a reason behind that meat fanatical protein religion out there, and it's all from pet food marketers that really are not looking at nutrition at all. So Again, when I look at this with Science Diet, wow. And again, picture this, the idea, how do I keep my healthy dog healthy and reduce the risk of heart disease, kidney disease, urinary stones? Well, the one real way is not, ooh, he needs more meat. He needs to be treated like a wolf. He needs fresh predator diet, da 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 da. No, we're going to control the minerals that are going to make it easier for his organs now that they're tired and breaking down to let them make them last. Okay, and when you look at that mineral content across the board, there's only one diet there that truly stands out among them to say, okay, you want a senior food? You want a senior food that is going to keep your senior dog healthy, reduce the risk of age-related diseases. You do that by controlling nutrients. That's why Science Diet wins. But in these senior years, I lose my mind when I go online and I see people buying these fad diets or boutique diets for their geriatric dogs because they love them so much, their family, they want them to live forever. And it's like, what do you think is in this food that's going to make your geriatric dog, be healthier and live longer without those diseases? Just because it has pretty packaging or has real meat or happy chickens or whatever, it just drives me crazy. So anyway, so there's the comparison. I was trying to think of what other diets or what other things go into a senior food, and there were a couple things I came up with, because I have to tell you, we're only looking at a couple nutrients, but these are the foundational nutrients. I'm sure there's somebody out there thinking, well, Glenn, you're only looking at protein, calcium, phosphorus. You could see sodium there. I think I may stop using sodium because you don't really find a big difference in sodium levels. So it's not really worth looking at that. Vitamin E, though. Vitamin E, this is the antioxidant that most food companies use. And most food companies do not use enough. You actually can measure cellular damage, oxidation, and alcohol. Alcohol levels are the byproduct of cellular damage. So we can't measure cellular damage, but we can measure alcohol levels in the blood. And that's how food companies, if they have chemists and know how to do this, they know how much vitamin E to put in the food. And most are way just terrible at it. But some of the food companies actually could give me their vitamin E in grams. So that was pretty impressive. And you'll see Blue Buffalo, 17.2 grams of vitamin E. Orijen could not give it to me. They only had it in a percentage. It didn't really help me. Kirkland, again, the economy brand, is only 8 grams. Probably not enough to do anything. No real benefit there. So we've got to give it to Blue. Purina 1, Purina did not give me the vitamin E levels. And if you look at Science Diet, came in actually the highest with 18.6 grams of, international units of vitamin E. And I do know they're the ones that did a lot of research with alcohol levels to find how much antioxidants have to be in the food to actually make a difference. So again, science wins in this in this category. It's really sad that AFCO and the NRC and all the regulatory agencies out there, they have no guidelines for senior diets, for geriatric food. They give you an adult guideline, but senior just doesn't exist. It's not in their radar. And I think part of it goes back to the fact that I've said this before. The government, these regulatory systems, make sure there's no deficiencies in pet food. And I've never seen a deficiency, but the excesses that are produced by using meat sources that have a bunch of hair, hoof, bones, chicken feathers, whatever, those mineral excesses, they don't care. That they're not looking at that. Just don't be deficient. And when it comes to senior foods, these food companies have no rules. I mean, they literally could take their puppy food, put it in a different bag, and sell it as their senior diet. A question to ask these food companies would be, what makes your senior diet a senior diet? Orijen at the protein level and the mineral content in there is pretty similar to their adult. Same way with Blue Buffalo. Now, again, they're all nature, wolf-loving diets, so it makes sense. There wouldn't be much of a geriatric change because they don't really believe in geriatrics. Just one diet fits all. And when you buy the economy brands, you saw some of those were lacking. You know, you do get what you pay for when you go economy. But the sad thing was, you saw some even more excessive mineral content and protein content for your old dog with those fancy, expensive foods. So when it comes to senior foods, there's very few of them out there that actually say, hey, how do I change this diet to make it appropriate for a senior? That's what I would love to hear. Instead of a species appropriate or wolf appropriate, I'd love to see life stage appropriate. That would really be great, because then we'd have more good diets like you saw with Science Diet there. But if you can't recognize the difference in a diet for an old dog by looking at its nutrient levels, you have to question why do they call this senior? Okay, so real quick, if we look at the cost of these foods, this is off Chewy, the largest bags available, and Blue Buffalo at $2.86 a pound, and Orijen at $4 a pound. So neither of those foods really did a great job of addressing the nutrient needs of a geriatric dog, but they're pretty high in price. Kirkland, remember, I liked their protein level, but their mineral content was still pretty high. But it is a significant savings for somebody that can't afford those boutique all natural diets. Purina One came in. Remember, their nutrient levels were much better than the other three, and they're only $1.92 a pound. So that's a pretty good win for Purina One. But the clear winner is Science Diet, only $2.67 a pound, and they had the best nutrient levels, the best antioxidant levels. So all the way around, when you look at the cost, it's pretty interesting. You don't have to spend extra money for your geriatric dog if you're looking at nutrients instead of ingredients. So I hope that's been helpful. Please give me comments. I try my best to cover these topics as best I can. I think the next one I should do is probably addressing overweight pets, because when it comes to even geriatrics, the one thing you definitely could do for your pet is keep them lean when they hit those geriatric years. But blood work for your older guys every year, every couple of years. A dental. My Bella just had a $900 and something dental. Her blood work came back wonderful. She's 13 years old, so she's doing great. But dentistry, blood work, and again, keeping them at an ideal weight. And those are really the three great things you could do for your pet, maybe even more so than the actual diet, to be honest with you. So anyway, hope that's been helpful. Take care.